Well, Trek Madone today, we've got a 210-kilometer ride down to Brighton, about 2,500 meters of climbing, and I'm getting a video in with the old one. I've just managed to get my hands on one right before the new one comes out. So if I can get my hands on one of them, I can tell you the differences between the two. But this one first, let's get into it. So if you haven't watched my Ultimate versus Air Road video, basically the concept of these videos and these bike reviews, I'm gonna be ranking each bike based on 10 categories on how they feel, and I'm going to be putting them in a big list so you can get a good idea of how the bike ranks compared to other bikes that I've ridden. And this one is next on the list. As I go through these videos, guys, you might notice that after the videos are done, I change the numbers a little bit, and the more bikes that I ride, the more those numbers might change, as one might feel better on the handling or one might be more comfortable, for example. So yeah, the numbers could change over time. Well guys, where to start on this thing? I've been very, very impressed so far. And first up on the categories is handling. To be honest, this bike handles well. Like, it's just very comfortable, easy to get a hold of. I would say compared to like my Specialized SL7, it's a little bit sharper on the turning, like it turns in a little bit quicker. But once again, I just feel super comfortable going around the corners on this thing. It's really impressed me with the handling, and to be honest, it might be the best bike I've ridden so far. It's easy to get a hold of, it works well, anyone could ride it, and you can rail this thing around corners. It's beautiful. I've changed my mind a little bit about the handling, but I find I'm not liking leaning over as much on this bike. Admittedly, the roads are a bit damp, so that could have an effect to do with it, but it just doesn't feel like the bike wants to be as far leant over when going around those long swoopy corners than the SL7. Well, we're down here in Brighton, and it's quite a windy place, which means it's a good time to talk about the wind. And to be honest, the Madone, fine. Not like the Air Road at all. Honestly, like, even we had some strong side winds coming down the back at the end, and quite frankly, I couldn't even tell. It was practically as good as my SL7 in terms of the wind, so it gets like a solid like 9 out of 10 on that one. I'm amazed. The truth is, I think it's the wheels, and I reckon it's the design as well. Like, the Specialized has a good design wheel with the Rovals, and I think these do too. And that's where they're probably, I'm theorizing here, a little bit better than the Canyon, and why you don't really feel the side winds on this bike. One thing to note, I am also a heavier rider as well. I'm 85 kilos, so it affects me less than it would a lighter rider. We're 130k in now, and I need to talk to you about how this bike feels when you're climbing. And honestly, this bike far outshines any more than it has any right to for this kind of aero frame when you're climbing. I mean, it's electric, it just has energy when you go from side to side. It's snappy, it's responsive, it just works on the climbs. And well, it does have one weakness, and that is the weight. The responsiveness does not hide the weight, but like I said, really outshines itself on the climbs. Feels like a proper climbing bike, far more than it ever should. If I had to compare it, it does compare similarly to my Specialized SL7. They both feel very good when you're pushing the big watts out. Let's talk about sprinting on the Madone here, and in one word that I would use, it's electric, really. Feels a lot better than the Canyon Air Road, just because of that out the saddle feeling. It's really got that side to side pump. The energy moves you forward. There's no dead spots in the bike when you're out the saddle. And man, you can just really push the power down. I feel like I can really yank on the bars on this bike as well, so I can really get the watts out. I like sprinting on this bike. Whilst I'm down here, we've been doing mostly rolls and flats to get to this position. We're about 50k in now, and man, this thing feels like the Air Road. Like, it just absolutely flies. It feels like you pull away from people super easy. It's easy to be in a tuck position. You just pump the power. It feels like any power you put in the pedals goes into forward motion along the rolls and flats here, and feels like a time trial bike in terms of speed. So I've enjoyed the rollings and flats on this one. This gets a solid 10 out of 10. I'm in. For that flat stuff, goes quick. With more information regarding the rollings and flats, it does have like that propulsive feeling when you put the power down. But unlike the Air Road, you also get that propulsive feeling out the saddle as well, There's no dead spots on this bike. It's really sharp, and I would argue it's even sharper out the saddle than the Ultimate. It feels good. I've waited till the end of my ride here to talk about comfort on the bike, and well, to be honest, it performs well. Seriously, it is a comfortable bike, and the old Trek Madone was known for it with that ISOFlow system. And does this hole in the back work? I think it does. I mean, I've just done 185k, like 6 hours, and to be honest, I've kind of been comfortable the whole time, even towards the latter end of the stages. And that can't be said for the Canyon Ultimate nor the Canyon Aero. They aren't as comfortable. Is this as comfortable as the SL7? Not quite. I think it is those thick old tube shapes, maybe a bit of carbon layout difference. I don't know, I'm not an engineer. But yeah, compared to the Canyons, I just got no neck pain towards the end of the ride. I felt comfortable the whole way through, and it does absorb the bumps and vibrations through the road better than you'd think. Just smooths over things. It does feel heavier, and like when you do go over those bumps, the whole bike kind of buckaroos a lot more than the Specialized, but comfortable bike. One thing I will say to add to the comfort, it runs the same tyres, a 28 GP5 that was running on the Canyons that I tested the other week. And to be honest, like with the same tyres, similar kind of setup, it's a fair comparison between comfort. Another thing I will add for comfort, because it's not my bike, there's still a good drop on there, but there is also a fairly high stack. So I think it biases it to being a little bit more comfortable in the Canyons. But I like that you have the choices of the stack there, because you can go high, you can go low. You can't do that on the Canyons. There's not much adjustability, but this one, you can have a high position, and I think it looks okay with that stack. It's a little bit dorky and high, but not too bad. Let's talk about the weight then, actually, because this bike, it is a heavy bike, and as good as it feels on the climbs, it cannot hide how heavy it is. I mean, I think with the new one coming out, you see those skinny tubes, that might solve its problem, but it's one of the few things holding this bike back. It's hard to get the weight down on this bike. Even, I mean, with SRAM Force, I'm gonna weigh this bike in so you can see what it is, but even if you put Dura Ace or SRAM Red, it's gonna be a hefty boy. So yeah, let's see if the new one solves that problem. Well, with that ride finished, let's talk about the fun factor, and does this have it? Hells yes, it's got it in spades, as I think most bikes do, because I like bikes, but you genuinely just have a really good time on it. It's very versatile. You can use the bike anywhere, any terrain, any climb. Even though it does have that heavier feel, it's still very fun. It's got mega shop window effect on this bike. I mean, I don't really like black on bikes too much, but on this one, it's really a stunner. It's got that shop window effect. People just look at you on this bike all the time, and you get compliments galore. So this is a cool bike. It's as cool as the Aero. It's really attractive. Solid 10 out of 10 for the shop window effect. We do have to talk about the hole. This is a very split opinion. For me, I love the hole in the back of the bike. I think it gives the bike something different. It gives it character. And well, some people don't like it, but I also think the hole is a case of classic over-engineering from Trek. Does it work? I think, yeah, it does work. Is it more aero? Who knows? But it's a solution that no one else has thought of. I'm just here now in the editing booth, and we need to discuss the price on this bike, because it is probably, well, it is its biggest downfall. This bike in this spec is £10,200. That's for SRAM Force. Come on, Trek, that is way too much. That is ridiculous. I would never pay that much money for this bike. So it gets a something like 2 out of 10. You know what? It's going to get a 1 out of 10 on my rankings here, because that is just so bad. Even Specialized has a better value bike for the same kind of range. It's about £8,000 from Specialized. £2,200 more than a Specialized. So yeah, that is bad. I mean, when you compare this to the Canyon Aero, you can get the similar sort of spec with a power meter for like £5,100. I mean, just a joke. Not happening. Not happy with that. Too much. I will say one thing that does annoy me on this bike is when the wheel hits the scuff plate of your shoe. And this one, well, it does. I know that's what the scuff plate's there for, but this is only a problem at low speeds, but this bike does it. And I have small feet, 8.5. Well guys, to summarize the whole bike, very, very impressed. It was far better than I was expecting. It handled better than I was expecting. I thought it was going to feel more like the Aeroad. The Madone also climbed a lot better than I thought. Strangely, like out the saddle, the feel of the frame felt more like a climbing bike. I'm amazed. It handled better in the wind than I was expecting. I've been trying to think of better ways to summarize this bike, and when I think about it, to what I think would be its closest rival as a bike comparison, the Canyon Aeroad. Is it faster? No, it's probably the exact same speed. I doubt you'll be any quicker on this bike. But as an experience, it is superior in almost every feelable way on the bike. But it has two major letdowns. The first one is that weight, and the second one is that price. And with that price in there, not for me. Well guys, here are the final scores. You're welcome to look at those in more detail. I'm going to find a way to put this like online, like a landing page or something, so look for that in the description. If you got any tips, feel free to hit me up on that one. But as you can see, overall score 75, very high, really let down by the cost and value, really let down by the weight. That puts it just behind the Canyon Ultimate for me. Guys, if I've missed anything out on this bike, then please let me know. Just ask a question. I reply to most of them. So you should be able to get your questions answered if I can answer them. I've been Jason. This has been Cycling Unboxed. See you in the next video.